Great. Hi, Yesenia. Hi, Celsa from Birmingham at HICA, and everybody else on the line. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Laura First, and I'm a Senior Program Manager here at NALCAB, and I primarily support our technical assistance and grant-making activities in the area of financial capability. I'm also joined today by NALCAB's Director of Programs, Holly Frendell, who, in addition to overseeing financial capability, also supports and oversees our small business development and equitable neighborhood development program areas. And so we're just about to kick off this webinar. Thank you so much to everybody for introducing yourselves in the chat. Today you're on the webinar called Supporting Financial Wellness with Online Tools. This webinar is supported by Capital One. They've contributed to NALCAB's work with its members on integrating various online tools, including their own Listos Clic Avance online banking curriculum. So we're very happy to build upon that work today by highlighting other online resources and used by members like Building Skills Partnership in our network today. So it seems that we have a lot of familiar faces on the line and some new folks. So for those of you who are not as familiar with the NALCAB family, our mission is to strengthen the economy by advancing economic mobility in Latino communities. As a nonprofit organization and CDFI, we serve and represent a national network of over 120 mission-driven asset building organizations in over 40 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. Members of the NALCAB network invest in their communities by developing and preserving affordable housing, supporting entrepreneurship and small business growth, and providing financial coaching to help Latino and immigrant households meet their financial goals. And so at NALCAB, we support these members with training, technical assistance, grant funding, leadership, development, fostering peer connections, and engaging in policy advocacy, both at the federal and local level. So here is our contact information. You can find us on various social media. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself and Holly today. But before we get started with the actual webinar, we just wanted to go over some brief housekeeping items. So today's webinar will be recorded, and you all will be receiving a recording and a copy of the slides within 24 hours. Everyone's muted, but please submit your questions in the Q&A, submit any comments you may want to share with the rest of the group in the chat, and we'll try to bring out your questions that you submit in the Q&A throughout the webinar, and we will also have a brief Q&A, a dedicated Q&A at the end as well. Finally, when the webinar ends, please take time to answer a brief 3-question survey, which will pop up in the chat. The survey helps us gauge if today's webinar was helpful for you. So before we go over the agenda and I introduce our speakers, we want to know from you. So let us know in the chat what types of financial education tools and FinTech or financial technology services and products are you currently using in your financial coaching and classes? Or maybe you're not a financial coach, but you do other forms of asset building work. What have you been using with your participants? Let us know in the chat. Okay, I see from Celsa Zoom meeting. She's been using Zoom meeting. Does anybody use any apps or any online platforms or any FinTech products maybe? Yeah, Maricela's also been using Zoom. Everfi, GreenPath, BizKids. Thank you, Ruby. And if you haven't necessarily been using any, but you want to learn more about integrating that, then this is a good webinar for you guys to stay on. Thank you so much for sharing what you guys use. We'll go over the agenda. Today we're going to hear about 2 ways Building Skills Partnership is working with participants to take advantage of online strategies to connect their members to resources and provide ways for them to act on their financial goals. First, we're going to hear about their BSP app, which is an organization-wide tool. And so Silvia Romo will share more about BSP's model and mission. and how they developed and integrated the app for their participants. Then we're going to hear from Monica Zambrano. She will tell us what types of online financial education tools and FinTech she uses in the financial coaching she does, and how the FinCap team at BSP is adapting to our current times. Okay, so that's the agenda for today. Thank you so much for others who are dropping in what they use in the chat as well. And I'm just gonna introduce our speakers a little bit more. So before we pass it on to our speakers, Sylvia Romo, in her role as a Northern California Program and Policy Director for BSP, Sylvia oversees the implementation and expansion of all educational programs aimed at improving the lives of low-wage property service workers in their region. These include ESL, citizenship, green cleaning, infectious disease certification, and more. She also provides strategic direction to BSP's policy advocacy efforts in the area of immigrant integration and workforce development. Sylvia joined BSP in 2014 with 15 years of nonprofit and human rights advocacy and experience with organizations in California, Texas, Mexico, and Central America. She is a BIA accredited representative, holds a BA from University of California, Berkeley, and an MA in Latin American Studies from UT Austin. And then we're going to hear from Monica, and she's our second speaker from BSP. Monica Zambrano is a financial capabilities coordinator at BSP. Her responsibilities include implementing, coordinating, and developing the financial education program to help families reach financial stability. She has expanded her coaching techniques by becoming a financial coach through the Central New Mexico Community College program, and is currently pursuing her master's in public administration at California State University, Northridge. Monica is a certified acceptance agent with the IRS to apply and renew I-10 or individual tax identification numbers. She is also a 2018 Pete Garcia Fellow, which is the NALCAB Fellowship for Latino Leaders in Community Economic Development. So welcome to both of our speakers. And with that, I will hand it over to Sylvia to start us off.
Great, thank you so much. So let me just load the presentation here. Well, hello and welcome everyone. First, I wanted to thank each of you for taking time today and giving us this opportunity to share a bit about the work that we do at the Building Skills Partnership. And a special thanks, of course, to Laura and the rest of the NALCAB team for organizing this webinar. I'm going to get us started here today with some background about our organization and who we serve, and then I'll delve into our process for creating an app, sort of the why and how behind it, before passing it over to my wonderful colleague Monica, who will walk us through and talk more about BSP strategies around FinTech. So BSP was founded in 2007 as an independent statewide nonprofit in California with the following mission that you see on your screen. We are unique because we represent a labor management collaborative between the Janitors Union, the SEIU USWW, and responsible janitorial companies that are signatories to that union contract. So this partnership, right, that's alluded to in our name, really stems from the fact that we bring together entities that are usually in opposition, but who happen to share an interest in providing skills training and educational opportunities to the janitorial workforce. They both recognize that a better trained workforce is a win for both the janitorial company and for the worker themselves. So this is really the win-win at the heart of what we do and what we often refer to in our work. BSP has roots in the Justice for Janitors movement, which some of you may already be familiar with. This movement aimed to unionize janitorial workers, primarily first in the LA area, in the Los Angeles area, starting in the late 80s, early 90s. Because over the course of the previous decade or two, janitors really saw their wages and working conditions deteriorate substantially. These used to be pretty solid working class jobs, as janitors were employed directly by the building owner and sort of had, possibilities for upward mobility to other sectors of the building service. But then the industry shifted quite dramatically to be more of a contracted service where, all of a sudden there were these janitorial contract companies that sprouted up, and they were competing for contracts at different commercial buildings. And what that did was it caused sort of a race to the bottom in terms of janitorial wages and working conditions, because these companies were trying to sort of downbid each other to be able to win these contracts. And this shift in the industry was really built on the exploitation of recent immigrant workers, many of whom were refugees who arrived in the LA area because they'd been displaced from their homes due to the conflicts happening in Central America at that time. And plenty of people thought that organizing this workforce was impossible, but the Justice for Janitors movement really proved that wrong. And so BSP was founded out of some of these original organizers of this union effort when they saw just the real critical need for English language instruction for this workforce, and also programs to help janitors' children, right, that next generation, advance on to do bigger and better things through their education instead of simply following their parents' footsteps into the janitorial industry. So BSP has grown across the state of California. Our central office is still in LA, and we have a secondary hub in the Silicon Valley area and then satellite offices elsewhere. We have a staff of about 20 people, and we all work out of the union office. So we're housed in the USWW offices, and that's where we conduct a lot of our classes. We find that that's a great way to provide that direct access to the workers for the educational opportunities we provide. And of course, all the classes and services we offer are free of charge to the workers and their family, and really anybody, anyone who shows up to our classes, that is eager to learn is welcome. So we have 3 core strategies you can see here on the slide: workforce development, immigrant integration, and community advancement. So this is a big tent, right? We do an awful lot. We try and cover a whole spectrum of needs. But we do so because we know we're one of the few organizations that can provide access to these supports to this particular population of immigrant workers. This population is often described in adult ed, literature as being the quote unquote hardest to reach. But they already know where their union hall is, right? It's a familiar and safe place for them. And participation in our classes can build community with their fellow janitors. In addition to having classes at their union hall, we will send a teacher to the buildings where they work, really at any time of day or night. So it's not at all unusual for us to have, for instance, an ESL class at 9 p.m. In the office building where the janitors are, during their break in a conference room. And this strategy really helps to circumvent the obstacles that these workers face in accessing traditional educational spaces. Obstacles that I'm sure sound familiar to you all around transportation and childcare and time and money, right? We try our best to bring these opportunities to them where they are. A bit more about the population. So the janitorial industry is built upon low-wage workers. Fewer than 30% of formal education beyond the 6th grade. And some have no formal schooling at all, and many struggle still to read and write. But we feel that that's part of our purpose, right? Is to build the confidence of this learner population in their own ability to learn and to reach whatever goal that they have. But it's not at all uncommon for us to hear from our students that participation in our classroom was really the first time they've ever been in a classroom environment. Most janitors have limited English skills or none at all, and so ESL still consistently is amongst the biggest needs for this population. Janitors are mostly women, and they're women who work multiple jobs, as many women do, right? Paid and unpaid, right? They care for their children, perhaps their grandchildren during the day, and then they clock in the evening for the night shift janitorial work. 90% of them are still Latino immigrants, mostly from Mexico and Central America. And they're an aging workforce. So this is by no means, an industry where workers pop in for a couple of years and then move on. They stay in it for 20 or even 30 years. And despite having won, collective bargaining rights, they're still a very, very vulnerable workforce to exploitation. So I included this slide because, there's a lot going on with COVID's impact on this workforce. I just wanted to address it for a minute. And I put here, they kind of moved from being invisible workers to essential, and, hopefully not, but it seems as though now they're being looked upon as expendable. We used to refer to them as invisible because they were sort of, workers who toiled in the shadows at night, in empty office buildings when other workers have gone home. Now with COVID, they've, at least publicly have sort of earned this title of being essential because people are finally recognizing what a pivotal role they play in protecting public health. But unfortunately, that title and that visibility, that recognition has yet to translate into really meaningful protections and supports for these workers. And so, again, this, probably doesn't sound unfamiliar to any of you, but they're really at the intersection of a whole series of crises right now. They're still struggling with low wages, income and job loss, really inadequate worker protections, especially when it comes to their health and safety. These Latino essential workers are 3 times as likely to become infected with coronavirus and twice as likely to die from that infection. They were already, many of them, struggling with housing and food insecurity because of the really high cost of living in California. And now that eviction moratoriums are set to expire, many of them are really on the brink of losing stable housing. And of course, once that happens, a whole series of vulnerabilities arise. So it's quite a dire situation for janitorial workers right now. And we at BSP did pivot quickly with a rapid response effort where we were calling workers and setting up a hotline for them, connecting them to a whole spectrum of supports in the community, helping them filling out employment applications, helping them to know their rights, distributing cash assistance, and basically everything we could think of, and we continue to do all we can for them. So this is a graphic we used to show a typical day in the life of a janitor. I think it helps to lay the groundwork for an understanding why we built an app. But before I get to that, I wanted to know, so we're going to launch a poll here. Who among you and your organizations have an app already in your organization, or are considering developing a mobile app, or are not, don't have any plans yet for a mobile app? So if you wouldn't mind letting us know, that would be great. Oh, interesting. Okay. It looks like most do not have a mobile app. Only a few, 8% do have one, and 17% are considering one. That's really interesting. Thank you so much for providing that feedback. So, of course, I wish that we were all around the table, or a table together, and can exchange, ideas around, the challenges and opportunities that an app presents. But I'm hoping that by sharing our experience, it can provide some, some food for thought for you all. So here is a typical day in the life of a janitor. She is a mother. She's doing the double shift, right? She's caring for her kids, and then she's clocking in the evening to a night shift. And let me point out that, this is in a way the best case scenario. There are plenty of janitors who pull a triple shift. They have an additional day job, paid or unpaid, and aren't, afforded a nap during the day, as this graphic demonstrates. So this is the worker that we're trying to reach with our programming. We send a teacher to her workplace, we welcome her to classes at the union, but still we don't reach them all, and their participation can be inconsistent because of all the challenges that they face. So thus, the idea for creating a BSP app. And actually the need came out of a number of opportunities and challenges. We knew from our intake forms that most members had a smartphone. It was often the only place where they had access to internet. We had already been moving recently to what they call a blended learning model of instruction, where digital skills learning was integrated into all of our subject matter classes, whether it's ESL or citizenship, instead of just relying on sort of a standalone digital literacy class, integrating that learning into other subject matter areas. And, of course, the app apps provide a very streamlined way to get all of the information out to the population that we work with. It's another tool in our toolbox for outreach in terms of upcoming classes and events, and it's a central place to really streamline communication with students. But really the biggest reason goes back to what we know about the life of the janitor, right? And the superhuman efforts they have to make to reach our classes. And so the question was, can this app be a first step, even if it's just, a little baby step, to giving her, right, to giving that janitor access to learning anytime and anywhere? Could it be a teacher in her pocket, right? She can open on the bus to work or on the line at the bank or in any windows, of time that she has in her busy day. So then we delved into the concrete steps taken to build this app and identify a platform that would work for us. We first assigned a staff lead. So this is the person on staff who was already leading those blended learning efforts that I mentioned before. Then we established a budget. We didn't have a specific source of funding to build this app, so we knew it had to be affordable, and we landed on a $2,000 budget. We of course knew it had to be, easy to use. Our staff are not coders, right? We're not a techie staff by any means. And so it needed to be accessible for all of us to be able to do those basic modifications and updates. And of course, it had to meet the privacy protocols for Apple and Android. So after researching about 10 services, we landed on a service called Good Barber. And meanwhile, of course, staff was informed and integrated into the process early on. There were presentations at our meetings, and then a subcommittee of staff was formed to really guide those aspects of content creation, what was going to be our communications and marketing strategy. And we conducted a number of user experience tests as well, all while really keeping central in our mind our student population. So now I'm going to show you guys a little bit about what the app looks like. Oh, I also wanted to mention that one of the most productive debates that we had on staff was around what to name the app that would be accessible. And so, we were able to narrow it down. And then we decided to survey our students. So that they could feel like they were participating and feeling ownership over the app even before it was ready to go. So here is the back office of the app, and it'll display here what it looks like. So our priority, as you'll see as soon as this loads, so you see it's very visual. It's an easy interface, and we used pictures of the students themselves. And, everywhere possible, of course, we made the titles in English and in Spanish for accessibility. And, our priority was to make it a one-stop shop for being able to contact us, for being able to receive information about our classes and events. So, let's say somebody attended a workshop with Monica on financial capabilities, and then later wanted to be able to call her. They'd be able to go to her staff page, and with one push of the screen, give her a call or send her an email. Of course, it has the ability to send push notifications, which we find to be very effective. And those notifications can either link to something internal to the app or to an external website. You see in this menu area, the participants have the ability to post pictures. It's very exciting for them to post and share graduation pictures at the end of our classes. And they can even chat with each other. I wanted to highlight the learning resources area, where we have, videos that we created in-house around, the English communication needs of janitors specifically. We have, citizenship study materials that they could have to supplement their participation in our citizenship classes, vocational skills materials in our Green Janitor Education Program, and of course, here our financial capabilities learning section as well. So let's see, now I will return to the presentation. So once we had it built, we had to market it and get people on board, of course. And so, we made flyers, we sent text message blasts, we made announcements at union meetings, we went to work sites to do outreach. And really, we started to focus primarily on our current student population. And as you can see from these flyers, it wasn't enough, obviously, to say, hey, we have an app, it's called MyBSP, go find it and download it. We knew that the flyers themselves had to walk folks through it step by step. We included QR codes for ease of access and images of exactly what they would see on their screen and what they needed to do, very didactic. We also created a PowerPoint learning module that our teachers could use in any of their classes as part of the curriculum to help folks get on the app. And we even created a Spanish language short video that we put on YouTube that walked through every last step from start to finish for how to get onto the app. The onboarding process. So we did the flyers, the announcements, the calls to text, but we quickly learned that the most effective onboarding process was in person. We established goals per office, and then we got to work in our classes, meetings, basically every interaction that we had with students. And we saw that very quickly, right, that they needed a hands-on, one-on-one approach and guidance to successfully get on that. This, wasn't surprising to us. It was a bit cumbersome, but not surprising. But what I wanted to highlight is that it quickly became clear that this onboarding process itself was a meaningful learning experience. So the onboarding and the app became a means to a greater end of equipping these workers with the knowledge they needed to access any app, right? To interface with any digital learning platform. And that's very powerful. So, if they didn't have an email address already to be able to register for the app, we could walk them through the option of registering via Facebook. If that wasn't available and they wanted to do so, we guided them through setting up their own email address. So our app became, a digital skills class in and of itself. So now challenges and opportunities. One thing I thought was an important learning experience is what we went through when we had staff transitions. So the person on staff who initially led the BSP app creation then moved on from the organization. And so, it was challenging, that transition. And so I think that's a good learning opportunity for everybody, is that, you really need to socialize this information and assure that there's a plan for follow-up and follow-through. And that's still, honestly, ongoing work for us at BSP. We're all very busy. And so it's been a little bit challenging to sort of integrate the app and all the possibilities that the app provides into, all of our conversations and all of our strategies, no matter what we do. So, it's still not the most organic, natural thing that we think of in our conversations, but we are making strides to get there, poco a poco. And then, of course, there's COVID. So, and coronavirus. You see images here of our infectious disease certification classes, which we do at the work site through Zoom. And, as everybody knows, and we're no exception, coronavirus really upended our traditional in-person touch that we usually pride ourselves in. But at once, COVID also made tools like the app even more vital. But also more challenging, right, to onboard people without that one-on-one approach I referred to before. So, as I said in the beginning, MyBSP app was always seen as just the first step towards that, anytime, anywhere, teacher in your pocket strategy. But COVID is really forcing us at BSP to pivot to distance learning on a dime and really, accelerating a process we had envisioned taking place over months or even years. So now we're in the midst of, urgent conversations around building an entire learning management system. So not just, an app with links, but like a much more comprehensive interactive learning platform. And the challenge, of course, is how do you provide more, right, through a learning management system but in a way that's still accessible to workers who have, very, very low digital skills. There's that trade-off there, that the more capabilities it has, perhaps the more challenging it is for the user. So, we're grappling with that right now, but that is, that's the next horizon that we're running towards, is, hopefully being able to have a learning management system that these workers can really access and have success on. So that's it for me. Thank you all again. And unless there are any questions, I will pass it on to Monica.
Thank you, Silvia. Yes, so I'm Monica Zambrano. I'm the Financial Capability Coordinator in our LA office. Let me see. Do we have any questions, or should I just go ahead?
Yeah,
I don't think we have any right now.
no questions at this time. Why don't you go ahead and we'll save them for the end.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, I'm gonna focus on the Financial Capability Program. In the program, we developed to help bridge the gap in our community with financial education and resources to provide immigrant integration. We have 3 different components under the Financial Capability umbrella. The first one being worksite classes, which Sylvia mentioned, is one of the classes that is held during the workers' lunch break at 10 p.m. at night, and usually during the workers' lunchroom. The purpose of the class is to help build a base of financial knowledge so that the workers can maintain or grow stable finances through good financial coaching. The second component is one-on-one coaching and counseling, and its purpose is to work with families to attain financial goals and stability. The third component is volunteer income tax assistance. In short, we call it VITA. The purpose is to provide free tax and ITIN services to maximize the client's financial knowledge. We also take this time to provide a space for clients to reflect on personal financial goals by providing messaging and activities around savings with our partners and the VITA volunteers. In the financial coaching and counseling, for us, it's like an extension to the worksite classes. Once the staff is able to build trust with our participants in the worksite, we're able to invite them to participate in individualized financial coaching. So they transition from group coaching to one-on-one coaching. And our coaching sessions on average last 3 months, and we meet up with the client at least twice a month. Some of the activities that we do in the coaching session include setting up a SMART goal, preparing a spending plan, obtaining and reviewing the credit score, and the credit history. So we have a poll question for you folks before we take a dive into the FinCap tech tools. And the poll is, let's see, what are some of the challenges you currently face when integrating online financial education tools and FinTech into your financial coaching and classes? So maybe you already know your answer to this question because you implement tech tools. Sounds like some of you folks use Zoom and other tools. So please, if you know the answer, go ahead and put it on the poll. And if you don't know, take the time to see which challenges you envision your clients having. And if your challenge is not on the list, feel free to type it on the chat box as well.
Monica, we'll give the poll another 10 seconds or so. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Great.
Okay, awesome. So it seems that 52% is participating digital literacy level. Oh, yes. And let's see, the second highest one is gonna be participants lack access to reliable internet connection. Great, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I bet it was a bit hard to pick, which one is the hardest, because I believe all of them could be challenges for us. At least that's how it is for us at BSP. So I'm hoping that these tech tools are able to address some of the challenges that you guys have at your community. So why are tech tools important? We as leaders in our community, we have to make the effort to adapt to the times and encourage our community to make those changes as well. I also believe that once we, and by we, I mean the service provider and the community, get past that learning curve, the benefits are endless. And on another note, during the stay-at-home order, while complying with the social distancing, we can't meet with our clients in person. So we had to make changes in our in-person coaching sessions. The biggest change that we had with coaching is that we moved all of our services to the virtual world. Now as a coach, I do all of my work by phone and text using Google Voice and online. And during this time, BSP also is making sure that our community is accessing all of the tools available to them, since many of our clients are now facing obstacles they have not had before, like job loss or reduction of hours. As a coach, I'm connecting clients to local food banks, access to discount rates for utility bills, free or low-cost internet, and signing up for federal and state resources like unemployment insurance or CalFresh. And when we're looking into the tech tools as a practitioner, I will say just make sure that it's a reliable source and organization. Also make sure that it's relevant to the community and to the people we serve. And last, I will say practice with whatever tool you want to share, because if you feel comfortable with the tool, you're able to share that with the community. So the first tool that I want to share with you is the one that most of our organizations already have. You might even have one yourself, is social media. Why social media? Because we're able to meet participants where they are. Most of our participants use Facebook on a daily basis to get news information and connect with their families and friends. So we're also able to share videos, posts, infographics, and links without having the participant create an account in order to have access to that information. The BSP team decided to create a template for our videos, but we recorded our videos using different styles. So for the folks that are a bit or a lot camera shy, you can use biteable videos, which is pretty much like a cartoon of a video. You don't even need to record yourself, like your voice or even your face. And then for the folks that would like to have more of like a charla style video with participants and aren't afraid of going live, you can use Facebook Live. So creating the content on social media has helped us to continue to build relationships with partners. We're able to invite our community partners to be guest speakers. For example, the other day we had a charla around accessing cash during a time of need with Southern California Edison Federal Credit Union. And we created content that is relevant to the times. So if I want to start a Zoom conversation with one of our participants, I could go onto the Rolodex of our videos and text a link to the client. What helps us stay relevant is that we have groups of staff teams that regularly update one another on the resources and the news that is happening. So it feels like we're all contributing our part. Another tech tool that I use with clients is my Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion. I use this tool when we talk about credit. Why do I use this tool? Well, these are the 3 credit bureau agencies that we talk about in our classes and during coaching sessions. So there's that name recognition. For participants that have an I-10, MyEquifax will be able to give them access to their credit score and report if they build their credit with that number and if the lender reports it to Equifax. Okay, so how to create an account for the participants. Step 1 will be to input their personal information, which is their full name, address. They will need an email, date of birth, their social security number or I-10, and a cell phone number. The step 2 to create an account will be to make a username and password. And I usually recommend our participants to save this information in a secure place. For example, if they put it in their phone, I encourage them to have a lock on their phone screen. And then the third step will be to verify their identity through security text. So the Experian and Equifax platforms are free, but I do want to mention that practically every time you log on to the account, the system will ask if you would like to update the account. So what you have to do is scroll down to the bottom and click on the no, keep my current membership. There isn't that much of a difference between the free account and the paid account, so I won't recommend making that upgrade. So the TransUnion does charge though. They charge $24.95 per month plus tax. The best thing about the platform is that the client can have access to their account online and on an app so that they can keep track of their credit for free. And the main con is that the platforms are only available in English. So there's more hand-holding when using this tool. Even though it is all in English, several of our clients request for assistance on downloading the app because they can keep track of their credit score. And then some of the topics that we discussed while using this tool are how the credit score rating is calculated, what activities are increasing or decreasing their score, and ways they can be proactive against identity theft. Let's walk through the website so that you guys can see what are the different features. Let me see. Okay, so this is my husband's account, so but I have complete control of my household, so that's why I have access to this. The first thing that you're gonna see is the credit score. And
Hi, Monica. We're still seeing the PowerPoint.
oh, I'm sorry. Let me see.
We can see it now.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so the first thing that you're gonna be seeing is a person's credit score. You do have to keep in mind that this is gonna be the score 8. So it's not necessarily what all lenders are going to be seeing, but it's a pretty good idea. And then something that I like about this app or this website is that you could look at the credit score. And what are the different factors to it? So what is helping your score? And what is hurting your score? So these are great talking points as a coach. So for example, oh, how can I improve my score? Well, one of the things it says is that my accounts aren't that old, so maybe keep them open. And then another feature that you could talk about with the client. Let's see. Is a score ingredient. So this is something that we cover in class. What are the different factors that are taken into consideration when determining the score? So the first one is going to be payment history. You could go ahead and click on that one and they'll let you know how you're doing in it. oh, it's exceptional. And the reason why is because you don't have any late payments, you don't have any collections. And one last thing is that clients can manage security freezes, have notifications of fraud alerts, dispute information directly with the agency, and have access to their credit report. So let me go back to the slide. Okay, and then the next tech tool that I use with the clients is Good Budget. I use this tool when we talk about their spending plan and savings. Why do I use this tool? It's a personal household budgeting system that helps the client keep track of their expenses, savings, and helps them keep track of their debt payments. This platform is available via web and on an app. So this tool reminds me a bit of Mint, in the sense that you'll be keeping track of all of your expenses and income, but with Good Budget, there's no need to link the bank accounts, which makes it a lot easier for me to share this tool because sometimes there's a trust issue when it comes to third-party providers. And also the client and I don't need to scramble to find their bank account information in order for them to sign up with the tool. This tool is like a virtual envelope system. Maybe several of you have heard of that system before, but if you haven't, back in the day, people would have envelopes and put a category for each one of them. When they were paid, they will fill those envelopes with money. And once the envelope was empty, that was the end of the funds. And the person will wait until the next payment period to fill the envelope up again. So to create an account for the participant, they're going to need an email address. This is a basic account, which is free, the one that I'm going to show you. But if the client would like to become a member to have unlimited envelopes, accounts, or debt categories, then there's a $7 a month fee. I would say it's not necessary to have that $7 membership. With the basic one, it's perfectly fine. So the pros and the cons, the best thing about the tool is that the device is available in Spanish if the participant has their smartphone or tablet set up in Spanish. So woohoo, this is amazing. I love this part. This means that the client is able to manage it themselves. I don't need to, once we set everything up, they got it. And the main con is that it takes time to establish the account, as you will see, but keep in mind that once it's all set up, budgeting can be fun. So the topics that you could discuss while using the app is budgeting, of course, ways to reduce the spending, ways to avoid leaks, and debt management. So let's walk through my Good Budget account so you can see what I'm talking about, and I will go through it briefly because I don't want to bore you guys. Let's see. Share. Okay, so once you have that, are you guys able to see the Good Budget?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. Okay, so once you have the account, you will create the envelope using the category right here. You will put what is the category and also what is the amount that you want to designate each month. So for example, I have alquiler here for the envelope, and each month I will allocate $1,000 for rent. And then after you do that, you would add the account. So looking at the accounts that you have, you will put what is the current balance that you have in the accounts. Like I was saying, you don't need to link up any of your accounts with this in order to participate. And if necessary, you could also add your debt that you might have or the client might have. So right here, I have préstamo personal. You could put how much is it that you have for the debt, how much is it that you would like to pay each month, and what is the interest rate. After that, you will fill the envelopes whenever the client gets paid, you will say, okay, they get paid this amount, this day, it's gonna be from the company. And if you like, you could schedule it. Okay, they're gonna get paid every 2 weeks. And then after that, you would go ahead and fill the envelopes. And usually what I do is use a quick fill, add all. Finally, as you go through the months, you would track the expenses. So for example, this morning I got some pan dulce at Lucy's Bakery, so I could put Lucy's Bakery. I spent, let's say, $5.45. And it already knows which envelope is gonna come out from, and which account. One last thing that I want to show is in the report section, there's a debt progress. And it could show the client, you know, when did you start paying this debt? And when is it that you could pay it off right here? And this really motivates the client to stick to their budget. So those are some of the tools. I hope that this has been helpful and that you're able to use some of them to keep your clients engaged and motivated during this time. Muchas gracias. And I'll pass la palabra to the NALCAB team.
Great. So thank you guys both so much. We do have some questions that have come in from the audience. The first one, since we just went over it, will be for you, Monica. How secure is good budget? And then I guess in a broader question, do you have any advice for evaluating the security of apps that that you might recommend for your clients to use?
Yeah, good question. So what I like about good budget is that you're not putting any like personal information, in the sense that you're not putting your social security number or ITIN. The client doesn't need to put in their account information. So pretty much just like Excel format. That's how I would think about it with good budget. You putting in the numbers and allocating, you know, where the money is going to go to, but no personal information needs to be provided. And in order for you to figure out if the account or the app is something reliable, I would say talk to your peers. You know, we have like a network of memberships here with NALCAB, right? So let's share ideas to see what has worked best in the community. Like, for example, the reason why I talked about my Equifax and Experian is because through that, I'm going directly to the credit bureau agencies. I don't need to go through a third party, like for example, Credit Karma or NerdWallet. What I like about that is I'm going directly to the source, so that also my community, they know they're going directly to the source as well.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So a question around developing the app, and I had this question too. Were you able to develop the app for $2,000? I think for most of us, that, at least for me, I thought, wow, really $2,000? That's a lot of bang for your buck. And so, yeah, question is that how much it cost to develop it? And also, sort of, what did that pay for? Was it, you know, did you sit down with coders and talk about what you wanted, or what did that look like?
So I was surprised actually as well. So I had to go back to, like I said, there were staff transitions. So I had to go back and sort of like put together basically that institutional memory. So yeah, we were able to stick to that. Now I will say that, you know, the staff person that was heading this up, you know, she was pretty tech savvy. And she also kind of ran in those social circles, to be frank. So she had a lot of like that knowledge and those resources on hand. But it is a do-it-yourself app builder platform. So it's specifically made for people who are not coders. And, I wish, I could have shown you guys, how easy it is to edit. It's just, a simple interface where you upload a picture, you modify text, you pick a font, that kind of editing interface that we're all accustomed to on email or what have you. That's the way the back end of it looks in terms of updating it. So she, that our internal staff person was able to build that, and she wasn't a coder, and you don't need to be. That was specifically, again, part of what we were looking for when we landed on Good Barber as the choice. And I did look up, I went to the Good Barber website again just to get a better sense for this. And so they allow a 30-day free trial. So I just wanted to highlight that if some of you all are curious, because I do know that the person who was heading this up, she did do extensive research for us. Like I said, at least, 10, maybe a dozen platforms that she looked into. So please, by all means, learn from that. And, maybe give the 30-day free trial a try with Good Barber yourself to see whether that's going to work for you, and they do offer that. And then there is a monthly fee, and it varies depending on what your needs are and what the ability of the app needs to be for your purposes. But it ranges between $25 for very basic up to $95 per month. But still, I still think that that's great, bang for your buck. And it has been very user friendly, that the sort of managing the app transitioned to me upon my colleague's departure. And I can tell you that I am not tech savvy at all. And I've been very pleasantly surprised, with my own ability to do the basic maintenance and updating of the app.
Great. So we have time for about 2 more questions here, and then we'll wrap up. We want to be respectful of everybody's time. One question was, do you have the tools that Monica showcased, linked somehow to the BSP app at all?
Yeah, we do, and I apologize. I had intended to show that. I thought that I had, but it's all a blur now. So yeah, if you go to I encourage you all, download the MyBSP app. If you need assistance, I can send you all the tutorial online, and poke around there and see, might provide some inspiration. It's called MyBSP. It's on Android and iOS and Apple. And if you go to the learning resources page and you click on financial literacy, there's a section for taxes, tax preparation information, and then there's another one for financial tools, and that's where we have links out to Good Budget and to NerdWallet and to Saver Life, and a couple of others. So yeah, feel free to take a look at that.
Okay, great. And then what tips can you provide to help individuals feel more comfortable with new technology? You had mentioned that, sometimes you sat down with them to create an email address or something like that. But yeah, do you have any tips for others who might be interested in introducing more use of technology?
Just generally speaking, digital skills generally speaking, or more on the FinTech side?
I'm not sure. Either one, I guess, but perhaps maybe more on the FinTech side.
Yeah. Monica, go ahead. Yeah.
What I would say is try to practice the different tools that are available. So go ahead and create an account, see what the different features are. And what I do is I always keep in mind our participants, are they going to be using this tool, or am I just is this something that is more for me? So making it something that it will be easy for them, just like we were talking about with the BSP app. That's one of the reasons why I really like Good Budget, because once things are set up for them, they could do it themselves. I don't need to be hand holding them. So what I would say, practice.
Great.
And I would just add, just kind of going back to that blended learning approach. I think that is relevant all around, right? So if you can, you know, we weren't so successful in having like a standalone digital literacy class where we were going over everything you need to know about a smartphone or about, you know, using a laptop. But where it did seem to land better with folks who had nervousness around technology is to, you know, start with their need, right? So, it, you know, if it can kind of come organically from what their larger learning needs are, then I think that helps, you know, helps that learning process a lot. So like if they're studying for the citizenship exam, then focus the digital lessons around how that can be a tool in their preparation for the citizenship exam, for example.
Great, thank you. So we are out of time. I'm going to pass it back over to Laura to just close us out. We did not get to some of the questions. We will take note of those and try to follow up, but I'm going to pass it to Laura.
Great, thank you everyone, and thank you so much to Sylvia and Monica from Building Skills Partnership for sharing your experience and your expertise today. We will be following up with some of these questions that you guys have popped into the chat, and everybody will be receiving a recording and presentation today. Before we let you go, we did want to bring up a couple of events, and actually this one may be very timely to some of the questions you guys have already asked about evaluating whether a FinTech product or service is right for your clients. So on September 9th, we're going to have a webinar with the Financial Clinic, and they have a whole model that they've recently developed around evaluating FinTech and making recommendations to clients on tools that actually meet clients' needs. So we really hope you can join us for that conversation as well and bring more questions. And then finally, just to shout out, every year NALCAB has a national training. You'll be seeing our notices, I'm sure, with more information about registration. But that's all from us. Thank you so much again for joining, and have a great day.